Dear Ikechukwu, do you remember the last time you were really angry? I mean, like really, really angry. You know, the type that feels like a weight on your chest. That kind that you can literally feel. Can you remember what caused it? Was it that thing that made you feel that way, or the fact that you couldn't do anything about it? You see, I have been there many times, and you're not alone in that. I remember feeling that way for a period of time towards my boss, like I told you in my last episode, when I thought he was responsible for my financial struggles. And I focused on him, hence failing to see the role I played in the issue. But one thing I didn't discuss with you is the pattern. I mean the repeating pattern that always seems to create this feeling. That pattern is quite simple, and I know that you know it because you've probably lived it. It usually turns out like this. Something happens or someone does something to you, and then you react, often without thinking. It is usually instantaneous. Sometimes it would feel like it's not you reacting, but someone reacting through you. You see, we've done this for so long that we now see it as the way we are. But is that really who we are? Or is it how our environment and circumstance has conditioned us to be? You may be thinking, is there really a different way? Can we act differently? Can we react differently? While searching for answers, I came across Viktor Frankl. Learning about him really affected me in a way that I could never have imagined. He was a man in the Nazi concentration camp. He had literally lost everything. His wife, his parents, his brother. And he didn't even know if the next day was his turn to go to the gas chamber. And yet, in that state, he had the presence of mind to notice something extraordinary. He noticed that there was a space between what was happening to him and how he responded to it. He called it the last of human freedom. He said it was the one thing that could not be taken away from him. And he suggested that in that space, in that choice, lies our growth and freedom. So for a moment, I need you to think about this with me. How did a man in a concentration camp find the presence of mind to think about freedom? Not freedom to leave the camp, but the freedom to transcend everything he had lost and everything that was being done to him. He found the freedom to choose how he met what he couldn't change. You see, the more I thought about it, the more I realized I didn't have any excuses. Because if he could find the gap, that space, in those conditions, surely then I couldn't afford to miss it in my own life. But I kept wondering, if this gap actually does exist, why were we not aware of it? Why were we not using it? Why are we not using it? Does this have anything to do with the fact that we have been doing it the other way for a very long time? Always reacting. We are so used to that way of doing it that we think that is the way it is supposed to be. Or we now think that's just who we are. Is that really who we are? Or just who we have been conditioned to be? So you may be wondering, like I did, is there another way? Can we do it differently? Can we choose differently? And I must tell you, I believe we can. The reason is because I have learned to choose differently. And if I could, I think you can too. Like Viktor Frankl, I believe we all can. You might then wonder, how might we do this? For me, it was Stephen Covey who helped me to see it more clearly. He stated that things that we are concerned about fall into two categories. In one category are things that we cannot control, and the other are things that we can influence, those things that we can actually do something about. They call these two categories our circle of concern and our circle of influence. And it seems that most of us, myself included, seem to spend the majority of our time and energy in our circle of concern, the part we can't do anything about. We focus on outcomes we can't determine, on situations we have no power over, and we continually ignore our circle of influence, the part we can actually do something about. These ideas are actually not new. Long before Covey put a name to it, scripture was already pointing at this same thing. You see, in Paul's writing to the Philippians, in Philippians chapter 4, verse 6, he told them to be anxious for nothing, not because their problems weren't real or facts, but because anxiety is what happens when we concentrate entirely on what we cannot control. It ends up consuming us without changing anything. And you see, Jesus himself took this even further and was even more direct when he asked in Luke chapter 12, verse 25, which of you by worrying can add a single hour to your life? It was such a practical question. He was basically saying, worry about what you cannot change, and what changes? Nothing. Nothing changes except you become more exhausted. So what do we do about this? Well, really, that's for you to decide. You can choose to keep the status quo, or if you like, you can join me in making a different decision. You can choose to start noticing like I did. You can choose to start noticing like I did. So maybe the next time you feel that frustration, the heavy kind that sits on your chest, you will remember to pause for a moment. Not to fix the problem immediately, not to pretend it doesn't matter, but to simply notice the gap, the space between what has happened and what you do next. And maybe, like I did, you may start responding differently. And I can assure you that you will find out, like I did, that space is where your real power lives. And I will suggest that you will do everything possible to protect it, to increase it, and never give it away again. I am God's Willie Kechuku, and this is From Within. See you in the next one.